Welcome to World Insight. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. In early 2025, Donald Trump's administration reignited simmering trade tensions that had been lying dormant since his first term. With a renewed sense of urgency and a promise to put America first back at the center of U.S. policy, Trump's team rolled out a bold new strategy that would soon send shockwaves through North America. The administration targeted both Canada and Mexico with sweeping new tariffs, catching trading partners and American businesses off guard. The move was announced with little warning, leaving companies scrambling to assess the impact on their supply chains and bottom lines. By April, a hefty 25% tariff slammed into Canadian steel, aluminum, and a range of other goods. Trump declared it a liberation day for American industry, promising that these measures would restore lost jobs and revitalize manufacturing towns across the country. Supporters cheered, but many experts warned of unintended consequences. The administration invoked emergency powers, justifying the tariffs by pointing to the ballooning trade deficit and making the controversial claim that Canada was acting as a conduit for fentanyl into the U.S. However, these allegations were quickly debunked by law enforcement data and independent analysts, who found no evidence to support the claims. Economists and lawmakers from both sides of the aisle saw through the administration's rationale, calling the move a political performance designed to rally Trump's base rather than a policy grounded in economic reality. Editorials and news panels erupted with criticism, warning of the risks ahead. The tariffs sent immediate shockwaves through the economy. Costs for American manufacturers and consumers rose overnight as imported materials became more expensive and companies struggled to adapt. The stock market reacted with volatility, reflecting growing uncertainty about the future. Businesses that relied on Canadian materials faced sudden price hikes, forcing some to consider layoffs, or even closure. Small business owners already operating on thin margins worried about their ability to stay afloat. The threat to jobs and economic growth became impossible to ignore. As the fallout spread, the stage was set for a fierce confrontation in Washington. Lawmakers from both parties recognized the economic self-harm these tariffs could inflict, and a bitter political battle loomed over the future of America's trade policy. In a rare display of unity that cut across party lines, the United States Senate responded to the escalating trade tensions with a bold and unexpected move. Senators from both sides of the aisle came together, setting aside partisan differences to address what they saw as a growing threat to the nation's economic well-being. After intense debate and behind-the-scenes negotiations, the Senate narrowly passed a resolution aimed at rescinding the controversial tariffs. The vote was close, reflecting the deep divisions and high stakes involved, but ultimately, a majority agreed that action was necessary to protect American businesses and consumers. Notably, 4 prominent Republicans, Mitch McConnell, Rand Paul, Susan Collins, and Lisa Murkowski, broke ranks with their party leadership. By joining forces with Democrats, they sent a powerful message that economic stability and the interests of their constituents came before party loyalty or political pressure. President Trump reacted swiftly and harshly, publicly denouncing the senators as disloyal and accusing them of undermining his administration's efforts. Despite the backlash, the bipartisan coalition stood their ground, arguing that tariffs ultimately function as hidden taxes on American families and businesses, rather than effective tools against foreign competitors. The vote laid bare a significant and growing rift within the Republican Party itself. On one side stood Trump's brand of economic nationalism, advocating for protectionist policies and tough trade measures. On the other, the party's traditional pro-trade wing, which has long championed open markets and global commerce, found its voice in opposition. While the Senate's resolution was largely symbolic and unlikely to force immediate policy change, it sent a clear signal to the White House and the nation. The president's trade war did not enjoy unquestioned support, even among his own party's lawmakers. This act of rebellion served as a stark warning. President Trump could no longer count on automatic party obedience. The willingness of senators to defy the administration revealed a new level of independence and concern for the broader economic consequences. The ideological conflict within the GOP, once simmering beneath the surface, was now unmistakably out in the open. Lawmakers were forced to confront fundamental questions about the party's direction and core values. The Senate's move underscored a growing resistance to protectionism, even among conservatives who had once supported the president. It marked a pivotal moment, highlighting the deepening debate over America's economic future and the limits of party loyalty in the face of national interest. The Republican dissent was vocal and rooted in conservative economic principles. McConnell called the tariffs bad policy, arguing they hurt American workers and alienate allies like Canada, not adversaries like China. Rand Paul condemned the tariffs as unconstitutional taxes imposed without Congress and a violation of free market values. Collins highlighted the direct harm to Maine's industries and debunked the fentanyl claim, citing law enforcement data. Murkowski warned of severe impacts on Alaska, given its reliance on Canadian trade. These senators weren't being disloyal, they were defending their constituents' economic interests. Their stand was a powerful reminder of the real-world costs of nationalist trade policies. Democrats united in fierce opposition, framing the tariffs as a hidden tax on American families. Senator Tim Kaine and others argued the costs would be passed to consumers, amounting to a $3,500 annual hit per household. The policy was painted as the largest peacetime tax hike in history, disproportionately hurting low- and middle-income Americans. Critics warned the tariffs would fuel inflation, disrupt supply chains, and threaten jobs. Farmers feared Canadian retaliation would devastate exports. Democrats argued the tariffs shifted the tax burden onto working families, subsidizing tax cuts for the wealthy. Markets reacted instantly, with stocks plunging worldwide as investors feared a global trade war. The backlash forced the White House to delay implementation and grant exemptions, especially for automakers. By March, mounting pressure led to expanded exemptions for many Canadian and Mexican imports. A quiet retreat from the initial hardline stance, yet core tariffs on steel and aluminum remained, keeping uncertainty high. The administration's pattern announced disruptive policy, react to panic, then partially walk it back. This left businesses in a state of constant uncertainty, undermining long-term planning and investment. Amid U.S. turmoil, Canada's measured response enhanced its global reputation. Canadian leaders avoided inflammatory rhetoric, defended their trade practices, and pursued challenges through international bodies. Canada's calm, rules-based approach contrasted sharply with Washington's volatility. Investors and global leaders saw Canada as a reliable partner, attracting new investment. The data didn't support Trump's claims of Canadian unfairness, further isolating the U.S. position. Canada's principled stand strengthened its ties with other nations wary of U.S. unpredictability. By resisting pressure with dignity, Canada emerged as a model of stability and global respect. The 2025 tariff crisis marks a pivotal turning point for U.S. trade policy and its evolving role on the world stage. For decades, America has been a champion of open markets and global commerce, but now, the nation stands at a crossroads, forced to reconsider its approach in the face of new economic and political realities. The immediate effects are being felt everywhere. Consumers are facing higher prices at the checkout, international alliances are under strain, and a wave of legal challenges has reached the Supreme Court. The uncertainty is palpable, as businesses and families alike wonder how long these disruptions will last and what the ultimate cost will be. If the court rules against the administration, the consequences could be historic. Billions of dollars in tariffs may have to be refunded, and the limits of executive power over trade could be sharply redefined. Such a decision would send shockwaves through the government and the global economy, forcing a major recalibration of U.S. trade strategy. The Senate's Bipartisan Revolt has exposed deep unease with the current wave of economic nationalism, even among longtime supporters within the GOP. Lawmakers from both parties are questioning whether protectionist policies truly serve the nation's long-term interests, or if they risk isolating America from its closest partners. At the heart of the debate is a fundamental question: will America continue to lead the world through open markets, strong alliances, and shared prosperity, or will it retreat behind economic walls, risking its influence and economic vitality? The answer will shape not just trade but the nation's identity and future. Alienating close allies like Canada in the name of nationalism is ultimately self-defeating. It harms American workers, disrupts vital supply chains, and undermines U.S. credibility on the world stage. Cooperation with neighbors has always been a cornerstone of American prosperity. As experts warn, the ripple effects of protectionism reach far beyond tariffs and trade balances. They impact education, innovation, and the ability of small businesses to compete globally. The next generation will inherit the consequences of today's choices. The real challenge for America remains strategic competition with China, a complex rivalry that demands smart, forward-looking policies, not trade wars with traditional allies. Navigating this landscape requires unity at home and strong partnerships abroad. The lesson is clear: protectionism is a dead end. America's prosperity and leadership depend on cooperation, innovation, and global engagement. The choices made now will define the nation's economic future for generations to come.